Before we go on to that, in your role as a former intelligence officer, have you been tracking this story about these extraordinary attacks that have been foiled in Denmark and Germany, where Hamas, we understand, is looking to bring its conflict with Israel against the Jews and the Jewish people to the European mainland?
Yes, I've been tracking those very closely. And interestingly, the Dutch put their terror threat up to substantial only a couple of days ago, which said an attack was likely. And then we've just had these arrests that are in. Hamas had stated only a few days ago that UK and US citizens anywhere are a target. They're a terror organization. They are exploiting opportunities across Europe to stimulate people to go and carry out terror acts, or it looks like with these arrests that they've actually infiltrated their own people into different areas and were planning terror attacks over the Christmas period.
And it's something like the sort of traditional idea that we remember from almost sleeper cells. If you read the report, there's a significant arms cache which has been built up. These individuals were radicalised. They were very likely in the very near future to carry out an atrocity, a terrorist atrocity on European soil against Jews in those countries, really speaking actually to that founding principle of Hamas, which is about the annihilation of the Jewish people. How nervous do we have to be that the similar sort of infrastructure might exist within the United Kingdom?
Well, a similar sort of infrastructure almost certainly does exist, but our intelligence services are keeping a good handle on it. They've kept us safe since the atrocities in 2017, with I think it's 39 late-stage attacks that they have managed to stop. However, the terrorists only have to be successful once. So this is where the public have to be vigilant and help our intelligence services and counter-terror police. If you get this gut feeling that something's not quite right, the advice is report it, because the counter-terror police and the intelligence service would far rather filter something out that is perfectly normal instead of miss something. And often it's gut feeling that points you in the direction of something potentially going to happen.
Yeah, and funnily enough, I was speaking to a friend of mine a couple of weekends ago who is on the border with Lebanon, living in Israel, and he was telling me about he could hear the missiles going off near his home. But bizarrely, he is more worried about his parents being vulnerable living in Manchester, in the significant Jewish community we have in Manchester, than he is about himself in Israel. And surely that speaks to how the British Jewish population is feeling under threat at the moment, both from the huge rise we've seen in anti-Semitism. Many of them feel threatened by the pro-Palestinian marches that we've seen in Israel. But now, today, we are learning that they're right to do so, because obviously Hamas is seeking to infiltrate Europe. And this is something new. We've not seen this from Hamas before. And, do you think we'll see it spread around the globe? Should we be vigilant in Australia, the United States, as well as in Europe?
Again, almost certainly, and there is a link between a lot of the different terror organizations that are out there, and Iran is behind them and will be stimulating them. So these ones were linked to Hamas. ISIS, Al Qaeda are still trying to develop their own little groups and cells around the place. And unfortunately, these protests that we're seeing, the pro-Palestinian protests, will be exploited by more extremists to get in and look for opportunities where, if they've got the weapons, they've got everything else in place, they will launch attacks from. And it's probably the people in the marches that are going to suffer most if and when that happens. The counter-terror police in the UK have put out a campaign coming up to Christmas asking people to be vigilant. What that tells me is they don't have any specific intelligence suggesting that there's anything over and above what they've got at the moment, but they're anticipating something. So they're just trying to pre-warn people.
And one person who's been pretty vocal about this is former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who's described these marches in central London as hate marches. I was pretty alarmed to note in the last march, as she described them, hate marches, that people were chanting from London to Gaza, we need a global intifada. Has the government been asleep at the wheel with this growing potential domestic threat with radical Islamic terrorism aimed at the Jewish people here in the United Kingdom?
I think it's really easy to criticize the government for everything, and it's really easy to criticize the Metropolitan Police for everything. It's a very, very difficult balancing act. There's clearly a lot of people are putting chants out that cross the threshold of what would be illegal under the Terrorism Act. Most of them don't realize that they're doing that, but some are doing it deliberately, and they're stirring everything up. From a government perspective, I think that there needs to be a harder clampdown, otherwise this is going to be exploited. From a Metropolitan Police perspective, they are balancing off creating trouble where there's thousands of people in one place, or dealing with it afterwards, and they're carrying out operations afterwards to go and arrest a lot of people, and they're getting arrested and taken to court relatively quickly. But that's not sending then a clear message back out to everyone else saying you need to stop this and calm it down. That balancing act is a very difficult political and police operational decision to make as to where it is, and we have to leave it in the hands of the police to make those operational decisions.